My wife never wore her wedding ring to work. When I asked why, she said, "IT's not professional, and I don't owe anyone my relationship status." I let IT go. Until one of her coworkers sent me a group photo. Captioned, "Office's favorite single girl." I didn't say a word. 3 days later, I made one move that blew everything up. She's been blowing up my phone ever since, begging me to please help her.
I used to think I knew what subtlety looked like. I thought it came in hushed tones, half-truths, maybe glances that lasted too long or silences that stretched just a beat past natural. I never imagined it could be as simple and as devastating as a missing ring. My wife, Mariah, was the kind of woman people noticed when she entered a room. Not because she was loud, but because she was composed, immaculate. She carried herself like she'd rehearsed every step. And maybe she had. Her hair was always pulled into a neat low bun, not a strand out of place. Her clothes looked like they belonged on a mannequin, tailored blazers, silk blouses, heels that whispered professionalism. She made success look casual. We'd been married for 3 years, together for 5. In that time, I'd learned the rhythm of her mornings. Wake up before sunrise, half a cup of black coffee with 1 sugar, 23 minutes in front of the mirror, soft classical music playing from her phone speaker while she applied just the right shade of lipstick. Then a kiss, always on the cheek, and out the door. I loved her in that routine, trusted her in it, which is why I didn't notice it until that Tuesday. It was supposed to be a small surprise. Her favorite lunch, chicken caprese panini with rosemary chips, and one of those overpriced hibiscus drinks, delivered right to her office. She'd mentioned a busy week, hinted at stress. I thought it'd be sweet, thoughtful, maybe remind her I still saw her, even in the blur of deadlines and meetings. I signed in at the front desk, the receptionist recognizing my name from the holiday party the year before. She buzzed me up, and I made my way to the marketing floor. Her cubicle was sleek and decorated with minimalist gold accents, just like her. She smiled when she saw me. That signature smile, the one that melted tension like butter on toast. She stood up, leaned in, and gave me a light kiss. "You didn't have to come all the way out here," she said, a mix of gratitude and surprise in her voice. I handed her the bag and laughed. "Yeah, well, consider it a peace offering for not doing the dishes last night." That's when I saw it. Her left hand reached out to grab the drink. Bare. Smooth. No ring. It was quick, just a blink, but my eyes locked on the absence like a heat-seeking missile. I didn't say anything right away, just tilted my head slightly. "Forgot something this morning?" She looked confused. Then she followed my gaze and smiled, that polished kind of smile that looked more trained than felt. "Oh, the ring? I'll leave it off for work. It's not exactly professional." "Professional?" I repeated, trying to keep my tone light, but my throat felt thick. Clients make assumptions. I don't need to project anything unnecessary. "It's not about us," she said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "It's just better this way." That was it. No apology. No awkwardness. No hesitation. I nodded slowly and smiled back. But I felt it. Something inside me, small and quiet, shifted. Buckled, maybe. Like the soft crack of an old floorboard beneath too much weight. I didn't even know what it was yet. Couldn't name it. But I felt it. That night, we ate dinner like normal. She asked about my day. I told her about a difficult client. We laughed over a show we'd both seen a dozen times. But every now and then, my eyes would flick down to her left hand. She hadn't put the ring back on. It sat, I assumed, in the little velvet box on her nightstand. Untouched. I wanted to ask her again. Wanted to press, maybe say something like, "It means something to me," or "Don't you think that's a little odd?" But I didn't. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. Told myself she had a point. Women in her position probably had to deal with all kinds of assumptions. Maybe it was just easier for her. Maybe I was being old-fashioned, insecure, needy. I went to bed that night thinking about that ring, about the way I had saved for it. 3 years of working extra shifts, taking on side gigs, cutting corners where I could. I remembered how I'd chosen the band, platinum, slim, elegant, understated like her. I remembered how her eyes had shimmered when I placed it on her finger the day I proposed. We stood under the gazebo in her parents' backyard, fairy lights above us, the faint scent of jasmine in the air. She had said yes with trembling fingers and a kiss that made the world blur. And now it was unprofessional. I laid in bed beside her, our bodies close but our minds miles apart. Her breathing deepened into sleep while I stared at the ceiling, trying to make peace with the fact that something I thought was solid had begun to crack, and I hadn't even seen it coming. It's funny how the smallest absences leave the largest echoes. One missing ring, one offhand comment, one moment where love looks different than you remember. That's where it began. Not with betrayal, not with shouting, but with a smooth, bare finger and the silence that followed. In that silence, it had weight, enough to shift the ground beneath everything I thought we were, enough to make me wonder what else I had missed. It started with a vibration. My phone buzzed against the kitchen counter while I was rinsing out the coffee pot, a simple, forgettable Tuesday morning. I almost ignored it. But something, maybe instinct, maybe that lingering unease from the ring conversation, urged me to pick it up. I dried my hands and glanced at the screen. A message from a number I didn't recognize, but the name that followed it clicked immediately. Devin Morales. Devin was one of Mariah's coworkers. We'd met once, maybe twice. Quiet guy. The kind who wore turtlenecks unironically and used words like synergy in normal conversations. I remembered shaking his hand at her holiday party. He complimented Mariah's presentation skills while barely acknowledging me. That had stuck with me more than it should have. So when I saw his name pop up, I frowned. There was no text, just a photo. No context, no greeting, no explanation. I tapped it open, expecting some accidental share or maybe a forwarded meme. But what I saw hit me like a punch to the gut. There was Mariah, my wife, centered in the frame like a cover model. Her head thrown back in laughter, one hand holding a martini glass, the other loosely brushing the arm of the man beside her. She looked stunning, confident, carefree. But what arrested me wasn't her beauty, it was the context. A crowded bar, dim lights, coworkers gathered close. I recognized a few of them from stories she'd told. That's Jenna from procurement, that's Marcus from PR. They all seemed to orbit Mariah like she was the sun. And maybe to them, she was. But what made my fingers tremble, what knocked the air out of my chest, was the caption, Office's favorite single girl. 5 words. Simple, casual, brutal. I stared at that sentence like it had teeth. It didn't just sting, it shredded. I zoomed in. There was no wedding ring on her finger. Again, she wore that same smirk she gave me when she said rings weren't professional. And the hand she used to touch the man beside her? The same hand that used to rest on my chest while she whispered that I was her favorite place in the world. For a long moment, I didn't move. The house around me felt foreign, like I'd stepped into someone else's life. The kettle on the stove began to whistle, but I didn't hear it until the shrill pitch stabbed into the stillness. I turned it off, slowly, mechanically, as if in a dream. I wanted to respond, to ask Devin why he sent it. Was it a warning? A taunt? A mistake? But my fingers hovered over the keyboard and never typed a word. Instead, I saved the photo, tucked it into a folder on my phone I'd never needed before that day. I named it Reality. Mariah came home late that night, said something about a client dinner running long. Her cheeks were flushed, her breath carrying a faint trace of gin. She kissed me hello, like nothing was wrong, like her whole department hadn't just collectively erased me from her narrative. I watched her move around the kitchen, reheating leftovers, humming under her breath. I studied her like a stranger, trying to find clues, trying to remember if this was the same woman I married or someone entirely new. I asked about her day. She said it was fine. No mention of Devin. No mention of drinks. Definitely no mention of being her office's favorite single girl. I didn't confront her. Not then. Instead, I nodded, listened, laughed at the right moments. But inside, a storm had started. Not a violent, thunderous kind. No, this was colder, sharper. A slow building frost that began in my chest and spread, inch by inch, with every fake smile she gave and every detail she left out. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling again. Just like the night I noticed the missing ring. Only this time, the silence between us wasn't just unsettling, it was telling, loud in its absence. And now I had evidence. Not just a gut feeling, not just a flicker of suspicion. I had 5 words and a photo that confirmed what I hadn't wanted to admit. Mariah didn't see herself as married. Not really. Not when she was out in the world. Not when it mattered. The next morning, as she got ready for work, I watched her closely. She kissed me goodbye, ring back on her finger for the performance at home. She said, "Love you," like it was a reflex, not a vow. And when the door closed behind her, I sat down at the kitchen table and opened that photo again. I studied every inch of it. Her eyes sparkled. Yes, but not for me. That was the hardest part. She looked free, unburdened, like she had scrubbed my name from her life and found relief in the process. And I had to ask myself a question I never thought I'd need to. What do you do when your wife's truest self is someone who doesn't want to be yours? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But I knew one thing for certain. Something had shifted. Something had cracked. And whatever I chose to do next, whether it was to confront her, investigate further, or walk away quietly, I would never unsee that caption. I would never unread those words. Office's favorite single girl. They echoed in my mind like a siren, not to warn me away, but to wake me up. And finally, I was listening. After that night, something inside me refused to rest. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was awareness, sharp and constant, like a paper cut you forget about until salt touches it. That photo and its caption didn't just bruise me. They peeled back a layer I hadn't realized existed, exposing raw truths beneath the polished illusion of our marriage. And once that layer was gone, I couldn't unsee anything. That's when I began to watch. Not in a paranoid way at first. Just subtle, measured observation. I started paying attention to things I'd once dismissed. The pauses in her stories. The sudden, almost mechanical way she'd turn her phone screen away when a message came in. The way she laughed a little too hard at texts she didn't share. I told myself it could be stress, work tension, or maybe I'd just become boring, less mystery, more routine. But that didn't explain everything. One morning, I decided to test my theory. I sat at the edge of the bed while she finished her makeup, watching her apply each layer with expert precision. She caught me looking and smiled. "What?" she asked. "Just admiring the artist at work," I replied, trying to keep my voice easy. She smirked, pleased with the compliment, and turned back to the mirror. Then came the moment I'd started to anticipate. She reached for the small dish beside the sink, her ring dish. She slipped the platinum band onto her left hand, twisting it slightly to settle it into its usual place. Then, with a sigh, she moved to the closet and grabbed her purse. I leaned against the doorway as she opened the zippered side pocket. With practiced motion, almost muscle memory, she slipped the ring off and dropped it inside. Not a glance in my direction. Not a word of explanation. Just routine. She closed the zipper and straightened her blazer, ready to face the world as Mariah again, not as my wife, not as anyone's wife. Just her. Polished. Unattached. Marketable. She kissed my cheek, like always. "See you tonight." I forced a smile. "Have a good day." The door shut behind her, and I sat on the edge of the bed, still hearing the tiny metallic clink of the ring hitting the bottom of her purse. That sound haunted me. That day, I opened a blank document on my laptop and typed out everything I had noticed. I listed the missed wedding ring, the photo from Devon, the caption. Then I added what I'd just seen, the quiet ritual of removal before she left the house. I needed to see the facts in black and white to feel like I wasn't making it all up in my head. The list helped. It confirmed something I'd tried to ignore for too long. This wasn't a mistake or oversight. This was a pattern. The following week, I saw her do it 5 times. Every morning, the same steps. Ring on, ring off, tucked away like a secret. I even checked the purse myself once when she was in the shower. There it was, our symbol of unity, of love, buried beneath lip gloss, receipts, and a half-used pack of gum. Discarded until it served a purpose again. I wanted to ask her, not accusingly, just openly. But every time the moment came, I lost my nerve. There was a kind of dread in confronting someone you've built your life with. It wasn't just fear of the answer. It was fear of what the question meant. That asking it would make it real. That saying it out loud would crack the entire illusion, and we'd both be forced to look at what we'd become. Instead, I started pulling back. Emotionally, physically. I still kissed her goodnight. Still asked about her day. But there was a distance now, a measured restraint. She didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she noticed and didn't care. The hardest part was realizing how many people saw her the way I no longer could. At work, she was adored, respected, admired, envied. She posted curated snapshots of her life, edited to perfection. Not a trace of me in any of them. You'd think she lived alone in a luxury apartment with immaculate lighting and no flaws. A woman with no attachments. A blank canvas painted to please strangers. And yet at home, she let me cook her dinner. Let me rub her shoulders when she was tired. Let me pretend everything was still ours. One night, after she fell asleep, I lay beside her, watching the rise and fall of her breath. She looked peaceful, unbothered. I reached across the bed and took her hand gently, lifting it toward the moonlight filtering in through the curtains. "Bear." Always bare at night now. She used to sleep in that ring, once upon a time. Used to say it made her feel safe. Like I was there even when I wasn't. Now it was a symbol she only wore when necessary. When it served a function. When it fit the narrative. I held her hand for a long moment, then let it fall back to the blanket. My chest felt heavy, but the tears I expected didn't come. I was too numb. Too tired. What do you do when the person you love begins to vanish right in front of you? Not physically, but emotionally. When they erase you from the life they show the world. You watch. You wait. You hope it's just a phase. But deep down, you start to prepare. And I was starting. Not with rage. Not even with sadness. With observation. Because the truth had started showing itself, quietly, like a slow sunrise over a frozen landscape. And I, finally, had stopped looking away. I never wanted to be the kind of man who checked his wife's phone. It always felt like a breach of trust, something people did in the final days of a doomed relationship. But I had begun to realize something. Sometimes, the only way to stop gaslighting yourself is to look the truth in the face. You don't find it through gut feelings or carefully worded questions. You find it in the silences, the routines, and yes, sometimes in the places you were never meant to look. That morning, Mariah hummed in the shower while I sat at the foot of the bed with her phone in my hand. I hadn't planned to do it. I was on my way to grab my wallet when I saw it. Her phone lit up with a message preview. Can't stop thinking about last night. No name, just the words and a heart emoji. Something shifted in me. Not snapped, it shifted. The kind of internal movement you don't come back from. I turned off the screen, inhaled deeply, and listened to the water rushing from the bathroom. She always took long showers. I had time. The passcode was the same one she'd always used, my birthday. That irony wasn't lost on me. When the screen unlocked, her phone welcomed me with neat folders and tidy rows of apps. It looked innocent, polished, but I knew enough to know that appearances meant nothing anymore. I went at her messages first. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, just confirmation that I wasn't losing my mind. And there it was. A thread with someone saved as JMKTG. Jordan. From marketing. I opened it, and my stomach turned before I even read the words. Photos. Selfies. Not graphic, but intimate, taken in a car, in an office, in a coffee shop. And then the texts. You looked incredible in that black top today. Let's book another lunch meeting soon. That mole near your collarbone drives me crazy. Her replies were just as revealing. You always know what to say. I dreamed about you again. I'm starting to hate going home. I stared at the screen, my heart slowing in my chest. That last one stayed with me. I'm starting to hate going home. I tried to remember the last time she smiled when she walked through the door. The last time she kissed me like she meant it. And suddenly, all the blanks began to fill themselves in. Still, I wasn't done. I kept digging. Her Instagram was next, not the public one. That account was spotless, full of corporate wins and brunch aesthetics. But buried in the vault, app she'd downloaded, cleverly disguised as a calculator, was another account. A burner, or something close to it. Username at just Raya. No wedding photos. No mention of me. Dozens of posed selfies, cryptic captions, flirtatious comments from men I didn't know. The bio read. Just a girl living her truth. Her truth, apparently, did not include me. Then came the dating app. I knew she had deleted the old apps off her phone when we got married. But tucked between Spotify and Google Maps was an unfamiliar icon, Elysian. I tapped it, half hoping it required a login, half hoping it didn't. It opened immediately. There she was. A profile as vivid as it was false. Name, Raya. Age, 29. Occupation, creative consultant. Single. The photos were edited for maximum charm. Her bio? Looking for a real connection in a curated world. I laughed. Out loud. I actually laughed, a dry, bitter sound that startled even me. A real connection. While sleeping next to her husband. While using our shared money to pay for brunches and hotel stays and God knows what else. I didn't rage. Didn't throw the phone. Didn't barge into the bathroom and demand answers. I just sat there with the weight of it all pressing into me like gravity had tripled. And I did something she probably never imagined I would. I started planning. By the time she stepped out of the shower, towel wrapped around her body, humming to herself, I had already placed her phone gently back on the nightstand. I didn't look up when she passed by. I just pretended to scroll my own feed, nodded absently when she said she was running late. She left in a hurry, as always. Ring tucked neatly into her purse. Smile rehearsed and tight. The door clicked shut behind her, and I began my list. I opened a notebook and wrote at the top, Exit Plan. 1. Find a place to stay. Temporarily. Somewhere she wouldn't look. 2. Close the joint account quietly. 3. Remove personal items from the apartment. 4. Make copies of the screenshots. Secure backups. 5. Talk to a lawyer. 6. Disappear. That was the word I kept circling. Disappear. Not vanish out of cowardice, but out of control. I wanted her to feel it. Not a fight, not a scream, but a presence removed. I wanted her to walk into that apartment one day and realize that everything she pretended to value had walked out the door without slamming it. That day, I didn't eat. I didn't work. I just sat with the reality of who Mariah had become and who I had allowed myself to become alongside her. A placeholder, a prop, a man who once gave her his whole heart, only to be edited out of her story for clout and convenience. By the time the sun dipped behind the city skyline, I had copied everything to a flash drive, backed it up on the cloud, and written an email to a lawyer I found through a referral from Theo. I didn't send it yet. I needed to be precise. I needed the timing to be mine. That night, I didn't sleep beside her. I stayed in the guest room and told her I wasn't feeling well. She barely noticed, didn't press, just mumbled, "Hope you feel better," and turned over. She had no idea. Because the difference between a man who's hurt and a man who's planning is silence. And I had mastered it. 3 mornings later, I stood in the hallway of our apartment, watching Mariah adjust the collar of her blazer in the mirror. She looked sharp, poised, every inch the woman I once thought I knew. She grabbed her purse, the same one with the side pocket, and slipped the ring into it like she was brushing lint from her sleeve. No hesitation, no thought, just part of the morning routine. A ghost of a smile crossed her face as she turned toward me. "Wish me luck. Big pitch today," she said, already walking toward the door. "Good luck," I replied, voice even, steady. She leaned in, kissed my cheek without meeting my eyes, and left. And with that, the curtain dropped on her illusion. The door hadn't even clicked shut before I moved. Everything I'd prepared for the last few days came to life in coordinated, practice steps. I packed the night before 2 suitcases and a box of essentials, hidden in the back of the hallway closet behind old coats we never wore. I carried them to the door quickly, methodically, heart pounding but hands steady. This wasn't panic. This was execution. The apartment was eerily quiet, but I could still feel the echo of her heels in the hallway outside. It felt symbolic, those last steps of hers, oblivious to the fact that her audience had already walked out of the theater. I loaded the car in under 10 minutes. My laptop bag went in last, zipped shut around a flash drive full of evidence, a folder of legal forms, and a printed copy of our marriage certificate. Ironic, I know. I stood at the front door one last time. Our wedding photo still hung on the wall in a silver frame she'd picked out. She looked radiant in it. I looked proud. Naive, maybe. I took the photo down, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. I tucked it face down into a drawer and left the space above the console table blank. Then I did the thing I knew would leave the deepest mark. I went to the shared account, the one we'd been building together since our 2nd anniversary. $37,000. That money was supposed to be for a future, a house, a child, something that looked like a real marriage. I had surprised her weeks ago by adding her name to it, thinking it was a gesture of trust. That trust was now a blade in my back. So I closed it, transferred every cent into a new account in my name only. I didn't drain it to be cruel. I drained it because it was mine. Every dollar was from my overtime shifts, from freelance design projects taken late into the night, from missed birthdays and holidays I spent working while she posted brunch photos. If she wanted independence, she would have it. Fully, completely. By noon, I was gone. Theo's guest house was just outside the city, modest, clean, and most importantly, off the radar. He didn't ask many questions, which is one of the reasons I trusted him. "You okay?" was all he said when I arrived. "Not yet," I told him, "but I will be." I spent the afternoon disconnecting, canceled our shared streaming accounts, logged her out of everything I had paid for, turned off my phone, and activated a new one with a temporary number. The only people who had it were Theo, my lawyer, and my sister. Then I sat on the little porch of the guest house and watched the sun move behind the clouds. It should have felt lonely, but it didn't. It felt clean, like standing outside after a storm, the world damp but new. At exactly 2:06 p.m., the messages started coming in. First, "Hey, Did you cancel the florist? They said the card bounced. Then, Rico, did you close the wedding account? The one that came an hour later was different. Please, we can fix this. Talk to me. I read each one without responding. Each ping of my phone was a reminder that control was slipping from her hands. By evening, she would walk into our apartment, her apartment now, and find it emptied of me. No warning. No goodbye. Just absence. I imagined her walking through the living room, calling my name, opening drawers, checking closets, seeing the open space where my keys used to hang. And then, finally, opening the bank app, seeing the zeros, the closed account. That, I imagined, would be the moment her carefully manicured world would split down the middle. And I wasn't there to soften the fall. I didn't leave her to hurt her. I left because staying meant dying slowly. A quiet erosion of self. A man living as a placeholder, a shadow, a convenience. I had become invisible in my own marriage. And when someone makes a habit of hiding their ring, of presenting themselves to the world as single, they're not just betraying a commitment, they're erasing you. So I erased myself. On my terms. As night settled, I sat in the dark of the guest house and let the quiet wrap around me. No perfumed pillows. No curated Instagram-perfect living room. Just the hum of a ceiling fan and the weight of truth finally aired out. This was the move she never saw coming. Not because I was incapable, but because she never believed I'd choose myself over her. She was wrong. By 2:17 p.m. the first voicemail came in. Rico, I don't know what's going on, Mariah's voice said, forced calm hiding beneath a strained smile I could almost hear. The florist just called. They said your card didn't go through? Did you forget to update it? Can you call me back? I didn't. At 2:43 p.m., another one came in. This time, clipped and sharp. Okay, not funny. I called the bank. Did you seriously close the wedding account? Where's the money, Rico? The money. Not, what's wrong? Not, are you okay? Just where's the money? That told me everything I needed. By 3:05, her text became a flood. Paragraphs alternating between confusion and blame. I'm worried about you. Where are you? If this is about the photo Devin sent, can we please talk like adults? I didn't cheat. I just needed some freedom. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I read each one. I didn't respond. By the time the sun began to dip behind the trees outside Theo's guest house, my phone had vibrated over 50 times. The battery dropped faster than I'd ever seen. She was relentless. And it wasn't concern. It was control slipping through her fingers. That night, she came home to an empty apartment. I imagined it in vivid detail, her high heels echoing against hardwood floors that didn't answer back. Her purse hitting the counter, the casual call out, Rico? And then the slow, dawning realization that I wasn't there. Not just gone for the night. Gone. I imagined the moment she walked into the bedroom and saw the closet, half empty. My side cleared out. My shoes gone. No keys on the hook. The toothbrush holder missing one half. The drawers that once held my things now hollow, gaping. I pictured her standing there, trying to make sense of it all. Because for the first time in years, I had taken the lead. She hadn't seen this play coming, and she didn't know how to respond to silence. That's when her desperation kicked in. We can fix this. We can start over. Just call me, please. I didn't. At 11:37 p.m., the tone shifted. Her final text of the night read, If you think ghosting me is going to solve anything, you're wrong. Be an adult. Come home and talk. But I wasn't interested in being manipulated anymore. I had played that role, supportive husband, silent observer, loyal fool. I wasn't doing it again. I turned off my phone and placed it face down on the nightstand beside Theo's couch. Then I sat in the dark, no TV, no noise, and let the silence swallow me whole. Funny how peaceful it was. How clean. The next morning, I powered the phone back on briefly, just to take a look. 92 messages. 12 missed calls. 3 voicemails. 1 from her mother. I played that one. Rico, sweetheart. This is Carla. Mariah said something happened. Are you okay? You know you can always talk to us. I almost laughed. Mariah must have left out a few details when she called her parents. She'd always been good at that, shaping the story so she was the misunderstood one, the victim of miscommunication. What would she say now? He just left. I don't know where he went. He took everything. She wouldn't say why. Wouldn't mention the ring tucked in her purse, or the burner Instagram, or the profile she created to meet strangers while I was busy planning our future. I replied to Carla with a single text. Thank you. I'm safe. Just taking space. Hope you understand. She didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. By noon, I sent Mariah what she never expected. For photos. No text. Just the evidence she buried behind screens and passwords. I attached them one by one. 1. The happy hour photo Devin had sent me, Mariah in the center, drink in hand, laughter in full swing, no ring in sight. 2. Her Tinder profile, Raya, 29, looking for connection. 3. A screenshot of her text with Jordan, I hate going home. 4. A picture I took of her empty ring box on our dresser. No message. No lecture. No threats. Just truth. I watched as the text delivered. Seconds later, the read receipt confirmed it. And then, silence. For the first time since I left, she stopped texting. That lasted for 12 minutes. Then came the storm. 27 missed calls in the span of a few hours. Voicemails stacked one after the other. Crying. Screaming. Begging. Some calls were silent, like she wanted to catch my breath on the other end. Like she just wanted to know I was there. She messaged Theo, my sister, even one of my coworkers. Have you seen Rico? Please. I just want to talk. No one responded. No one told her where I was because no one knew. And that was the point. This wasn't about punishing her. This wasn't revenge. This was me reclaiming the pieces of myself I'd handed over too freely. My trust. My time. My voice. She used to call me her rock. I think she forgot rocks can crack, and when they do, the shift is permanent. I went for a walk that evening, just around the quiet streets of Theo's neighborhood. No music. No distractions. Just the sound of my own steps, steady and certain. I watched the leaves sway on the trees, listened to the breeze, felt the sun dipping behind me. And for the first time in a long while, I felt untethered. Not lost, free. I didn't need her to explain. I didn't need closure. I already had it. It came in 5 words. Office's favorite single girl. And in everything she didn't say after. The only sound in the guest house that morning was the low hum of the ceiling fan. My phone sat on the table beside my untouched coffee, still lighting up every few minutes with Mariah's name. I didn't check anymore. I didn't need to. I had already said everything I needed to say without saying a single word. It was all in the images. 4, to be exact. The first, the office happy hour photo, her head thrown back in laughter, dressed to kill, no ring in sight. Everyone gathered around her like she was the crown jewel. That one was for the performance, the version of her she crafted for everyone else, the one who didn't need to wear a ring because her independence was part of her appeal. That smile? I'd stopped recognizing it months ago. It was the kind she gave the world, not the kind she gave me. The second, her Tinder profile under the name Raya. Just Raya. Not Mariah Wallace. Not a married woman. Just a single, ambitious, creative consultant looking for a real connection. Her photos were curated for attention, filtered into fantasy. Beach shots, coffee shop selfies, even a faux candid of her reading in bed. Her captions were brief but inviting, craving something meaningful. Here for the vibe, not the games. And in the bio, just a girl finding her way. No mention of the man she came home to. No ring. No truth. The third, a screenshot of her text with Jordan from marketing. The one that kept me awake the longest. I hate going home. I stared at those words for hours when I first found them. It wasn't the hate that hurt. It was the ease. The familiarity. That wasn't a spontaneous confession. That was something built over time, brick by brick, message by message. He called her baby. She said soon in reply. And it didn't take much to read between the lines. I wasn't just absent in her world. I was unwanted in it. The fourth image. The ring box on our dresser, open and empty. The one she used to hold close to her chest when we moved into our apartment. I remembered her excitement, the way she arranged her jewelry like relics of a life we were building together. Now, the box sat hollow. The symbol of our commitment tucked in her purse, used only when necessary, like a business card for the right crowd. That was the final blow. I sent the photos to her number with no message. Just the facts. Let her build her own narrative around them. No space to deny. No wiggle room to justify. She didn't respond right away. For the first time in this whole unraveling mess, she was silent. But not for long. The first call came 15 minutes later. I didn't answer. She tried again and again. Then the messages began. Please, Rico, please pick up. I didn't mean for this to happen. It was just flirting. I never acted on it. You have to believe me. You left me. You didn't even let me explain. But I had. I'd let her explain 1,000 times without realizing it. And every smile she gave to other men. in every conversation she never shared, and every time she dropped that ring into her purse and became someone I wasn't married to. The truth was never in her words, it was in her patterns. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Theo. I picked up. Bro, she came to my house, he said, his voice tired. Crying. She begged me to tell her where you were. My stomach tightened, but I stayed calm. What did you say? I told her I haven't seen you. That maybe you needed space. He paused. She looked wrecked, like she hadn't slept. She probably hasn't, I said. Neither had I. For months. She said you embarrassed her. That you made her look crazy. She made herself look that way. I just turned on the lights. Theo was quiet for a beat. What do you want me to do? Nothing, I said. Just don't let her in if she comes again. I got you. I hung up and stared at the wall. A part of me expected to feel guilt, to feel torn between compassion and closure. But I didn't. I felt done. Later that night, I opened my email and created a new folder, Mariah, Final. I uploaded every screenshot, every photo, every voicemail I needed to remind myself that this wasn't an overreaction. This wasn't me being dramatic or sensitive. This was survival. It was a digital time capsule of truth. Not for revenge. Not to hurt her. Just for me. For clarity. For the days when I might miss her voice and forget the lies it carried. I also filed the divorce forms my lawyer had drafted. I hadn't signed yet. I wasn't sure why I waited. Maybe I needed to see her fall apart first. Not for cruelty, just for understanding. I needed to know that what we had meant something to her, even if she'd buried it under fantasy and performance. But watching her try to track me down, beg my friends, call my family, it didn't feel like love. It felt like panic. Like someone who lost control of her narrative and needed the props back on stage. She wasn't mourning me. She was mourning the image she curated, the loving wife, the hard worker, the woman who had it all. I didn't fit that picture anymore. So I took myself out of the frame. That night, I lay in bed and played one of her voicemails. Just one. The last one she left before midnight. She was crying. I messed up. I know I did. But you didn't have to disappear. We were supposed to be forever. Forever. It used to mean something. But now? It just meant too long with someone who forgot what commitment looked like when no one was watching. I didn't know the full aftermath until Theo sent me a message 2 weeks later. Bro, it blew up. Jordan's wife found out. She stormed the office. I sat back in the guest house's small kitchen, coffee mug in hand, and read the message twice. Then I smiled tightly, without satisfaction. This wasn't revenge. This was exposure. When you build a life on lies, the truth isn't a wrecking ball, it's gravity. Sooner or later, it pulls everything down. Jordan from marketing, the same man Mariah had been texting, laughing with behind my back, the man who called her baby while I washed her dishes, was married. Of course he was. I should have guessed from the polished charm, the vague boundaries. But I hadn't expected his wife to be the spark. Apparently, she'd seen one of the screenshots, maybe the same ones I'd sent Mariah, and gone nuclear. Burst into their office in the middle of a meeting, slapped divorce papers on the conference table, and called out Mariah by name. It didn't take long for HR to get involved. The company had a strict policy on workplace relationships, especially undisclosed ones that created conflict or risked lawsuits. By the end of that week, Jordan was gone. And Mariah? She was called in for a formal review. She didn't last 3 days after that. It was Theo who told me about the fallout, piece by piece, feeding me details like breadcrumbs. She was escorted out, he texted. Didn't even fight it. Just packed her stuff in silence and left. I tried to imagine it. Mariah, the woman who once told me she was going to run her own firm by 35. Walking through those glass doors with a box of her things, head low, reputation shattered. Her carefully crafted world, undone by 4 screenshots and her own decisions. Still, part of me felt cold at the news. Not triumphant. Not smug. Just hollow. Later that day, my phone rang. It was a number I hadn't seen in years. Her father. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Mr. Wallace, I said. He was quiet for a moment. Then, Rico. I figured you wouldn't want to hear from us. I'm surprised you called, I admitted. She told us. Not everything, but enough. And I saw the photos. She didn't know I knew her passwords. His voice cracked, and I waited, unsure what to say. I'm sorry, he finally said. You didn't deserve any of this. There was a long pause. She's always been reckless, he said. We thought she'd grow out of it. But she just got better at hiding it. I didn't call for sympathy, I said. No. I know. I just thought you should hear it. From someone. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. I appreciate the call. He sighed. If there's anything we can do, there isn't. I cut in gently. But thank you. We hung up soon after. And just like that, another thread to that life snipped. The divorce paperwork arrived 2 days later. I sat at the guest house table and flipped through the pages slowly. Name after name. Clause after clause. Division of property. Dissolution of marriage. The legal vocabulary of an emotional fracture. My lawyer had kept it simple. Fair. Clean. I signed on the last page with a pen that shook only slightly. Afterward, I loaded the few items I had left into the car. I'd been staying at Theo's place for weeks, and it was time to move forward for real this time. I didn't take much from the apartment, just the furniture I had brought into the marriage. A few keepsakes. The rest? Hers. I didn't want reminders. Didn't want battles over what she claimed or what she guilted me into leaving behind. I just wanted space. I found a small one-bedroom cottage near the coast. Nothing extravagant. Just clean floors, sunlight in the mornings, and air that smelled like freedom. I slept the first night on the floor with a sleeping bag and a duffel, and I slept better than I had in years. A week after I moved in, a letter came. No return address, but the handwriting was hers. I held it in my hands for a long time before opening it. Inside were 4 words, written in looping ink across the center of the page. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. That was it. No explanations. No long monologue. Just that. I folded it in half, then quarters, and slid it into the back of my drawer. Not because I forgave her, but because I didn't need it. I heard she moved back in with her parents, that she wasn't working, that she was focusing on her mental health, that therapy had become her new obsession. I didn't care to verify any of it. The rumors floated to me through mutual friends, second-hand stories, social media ghosts. I didn't follow them. I didn't block her either. I just let them float. The truth was, I didn't hate her. Hating her would have meant I still gave her space in my heart. I didn't. She was just someone I used to know. Someone who taught me a brutal but necessary lesson. You can give your whole heart to someone, but if they never intended to hold it carefully, it will shatter in their hands. And when it does, you don't ask them to rebuild it. You learn to do it yourself. I boxed the ring that week. Not to keep it, but to sell it. I knew I wouldn't get what I paid for, but I didn't need the money. I needed the closure. The email came in the middle of the night. No subject line. No greeting. Just 3 sentences that pulsed on my screen like bruises. I'm facing eviction. I maxed my credit card. I need help. No punctuation. No apology. Just desperation poured into pixels. She hadn't contacted me in nearly a month, not since the letter. I had let her silence speak for itself. I assumed she was rebuilding, sweeping up the shards of the life she'd broken and piecing something together on her own. But here she was, reaching out again, not with remorse, not with a clean slate, just with need. I stared at the message for a while, unmoved. I didn't even feel anger, which was telling. There had been a time when any message from her would have sent my pulse through the roof. But now, nothing. Like watching the weather in a city I no longer lived in. I closed the email, tried to sleep. I couldn't. The next morning, I called her. Not because I wanted to reopen anything, but because some part of me needed to hear what she sounded like on the other side of everything. A man doesn't walk through fire and come out unchanged, and neither does the one who set the blaze. The phone rang once, twice. Then she answered. Rico? Her voice was small, trembling. It wasn't the voice of the woman who used to command rooms, who strutted through meetings and ordered wine like a sommelier. It was the voice of someone unmade. I got your email, I said. Silence on the other end. You're being evicted? I asked flatly. Soon. I haven't paid rent in 2 months. I thought I'd get something by now, but I didn't. No one will hire me. People talk. People don't talk, Mariah. Actions echo. She inhaled sharply. Please don't do this. I stayed quiet. I wasn't going to make it easy. Not this time. I made a mistake, she said, her voice cracking. A lot of them. I was selfish and stupid, and I pushed away the one person who actually cared about me. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You didn't mean for what? I asked, my voice colder than I expected. For me to find out? For your other life to bleed into the one we built together? Or for you to end up alone when the lies caught up to you? I didn't think you'd actually leave, she whispered. There it was. The truth inside the truth. She never believed I'd choose myself. Never imagined I'd walk away, take my silence with me, and leave her in the space she emptied out long before I physically moved. I was your husband, I said. I fought for us. I sacrificed for us. I watched you become a version of yourself that didn't include me, and I still hoped. I still stayed. I know. Do you? I asked. Or do you just miss the version of me that made your life easier? She didn't answer. The silence between us stretched long, heavy. I thought about all the nights I used to lie awake next to her, wondering where we went wrong. Wondering if I was too sensitive, too needy, too boring. When in reality, I just expected honesty. I'm not calling to ask you to come back, she said finally. I know I destroyed that. I need help. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. You had a husband, I said. A good one. You chose to pretend you didn't. You wore your single status like perfume. You made choices, Mariah. Now you have to live with them. You're not even a little sorry for how you left. She snapped suddenly, her voice rising. You just disappeared like I meant nothing. I didn't leave you because you meant nothing, I said quietly. I left because I finally realized I meant nothing to you. Her breath caught. I gave you my trust, and you turned it into a costume. Something you wore at home and removed when you left the house. You lied to me, and you lied to everyone else. I'm not your emergency exit. I know I hurt you, she said. But I'm hurting now too. You didn't think about that when you created Raya. When you whispered to Jordan. When you told the world you were single. I was scared, she said. Of being small. Of being ordinary. I let that sit for a moment. Then I replied, then you got what you wanted. You're not small now. You're unforgettable. For all the wrong reasons. She sobbed on the other end. Deep, guttural. The sound of a collapse. I didn't find joy in it. Just finality. I wish I could go back, she said. I wish I could undo everything. You can't. Rico, please. Just help me this once. Alone. Anything. I'll pay you back. No, I said, calm as ever. No. Her voice was full of disbelief. After everything? Exactly because of everything, I said. This isn't punishment. This is consequence. She was silent, breathing through tears. Maybe still hoping I'd cave. I didn't. This is the last time we speak, I said. Take care of yourself. I hope the therapy works. I really do. But I'm not your safety net anymore. I stopped being that the day I packed my bags and chose myself. I ended the call before she could respond. Then I blocked the number. The silence that followed was sharp. It wasn't peaceful this time. Not right away. It was the kind of silence that burns first, then cools. A necessary closing of a chapter one had left cracked open too long. I stepped outside, phone still in hand. The sky was wide and blue, the wind brushing through the tall grass. I took a breath and let the air fill every corner of my chest. No wait. No ring. No pretending. That was the final call. And this? This was the first morning I felt completely free. It's been 4 months. 4 months since I packed my bags, 4 months since I heard Mariah's voice, 4 months since I answered a call that once defined my entire world. And in that time, I've learned that peace doesn't come as a thunderclap. It arrives as a quiet whisper, then lingers in the corners of your new life like sunlight seeping through blinds. I sold the ring last week. I didn't tell anyone. It wasn't a ceremony, no farewell speech, no silent reflection. Just me, standing in a small, well-lit pawn shop, handing over the platinum band I once bled hours of work for. The jeweler examined it carefully, weighed it, checked the stone's clarity like it was some antique relic. How long were you married? He asked, not looking up. 3 years, I said. He nodded, almost respectfully. Sometimes the things that cost the most aren't worth keeping. I got less than I paid, of course. Life is like that. You invest your all and still walk away with less than you started with. But I didn't flinch. I took the cash and left the store lighter, not purr. I used the money to sign up for something unexpected, a photography class. It had been years since I held a camera with purpose. I used to shoot cityscapes for fun before life turned into spreadsheets and silent dinners. The instructor, an older woman named Gwen with streaks of silver in her hair and laugh lines deep as valleys, told me on the first day, shoot what you want to remember, not what you're told to capture. That hit harder than I expected. Now, I walk every morning. Before the town wakes, before my mind has time to clutter, and I photograph whatever pulls at me. A cracked window. A hare in mid-flight. A father lacing his kid's shoes at the bus stop. Details. Real things. Things people pass by without seeing. And somehow, in those frames, I found pieces of myself I thought Mariah had erased. I also box now, 3 times a week. It started as something Theo suggested to get the frustration out, but it turned into a ritual. Not about the punching, it's about the rhythm, the control, the breathing. There's something clarifying about facing a mirror, fist raised, and realizing you're no longer hitting back at someone. You're just meeting yourself in motion. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. People who had drifted when I started bending my life to fit Mariah's. I hosted my first dinner in the new place, a modest spread, paper plates, mismatched chairs, and it was the loudest laughter I'd heard in years. No one asked about her. No one needed to. And occasionally, I hear about Mariah. Through the grapevine, never directly. She's still living with her parents. Still out of work. Still posting curated quotes about growth and accountability on a new Instagram under her real name this time. Someone mentioned she's seeing a therapist regularly now. Another said she tried to start a YouTube channel about navigating heartbreak. I didn't look it up. I don't wish her ill. I mean that. Not anymore. I don't replay the arguments or wonder what I could have done differently. That's the luxury of closure, not the kind that comes from a neat ending, but from knowing that someone's absence improves your breathing. There's a bookshelf in my new cottage. I built it myself, cut the wood, stained it, mounted it to the wall with nothing but a drill and a borrowed level. It's full of books I actually love, not the ones I bought to match Mariah's aesthetic. There's no curated color scheme. Just fiction, poetry, photography, and a few dog-eared journals. And right in the middle, there's a small black frame. Inside it is the first photo I took after leaving her, a single red leaf resting on cracked pavement, sunlight hitting it just right. It reminds me of something Gwen said on our 3rd week of class: not everything broken needs to be fixed. Some things are just meant to be captured and moved past. Sometimes I dream about the ring, not the object, but what it symbolized. That wide-eyed belief that love alone could anchor someone. That if you gave enough, endured enough, forgave enough, it would balance out. But it doesn't. Because love without truth is performance. And I'm done being someone else's stage prop. Now I live by a rule so simple it feels sacred. If someone hides their commitment from the world, it's not because they're proud of it. It's because they're not committed. It took me too long to see that. Too many silences I filled in with hope. Too many routines mistaken for affection. But that's what the ring became, a lesson. Not a symbol of love lost. A reminder of self-respect reclaimed. And now, every time I lace up my shoes for a walk, or pick up my camera, or hear the ocean murmuring just beyond the trees, I think of how far I've come. Not in miles, but in clarity. I don't need revenge. I don't need apologies anymore. What I needed was this: to step fully into a life that no longer required me to shrink, compromise, or beg to be seen. Sometimes the loudest form of self-respect is silence. And the strongest move you can make is to leave.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. **